I love action movies that come from the perspective of putting the performer in the action.
Best way to fake being good is just to be good. And that takes sweat, blood, and tears.
You have to constantly train and evolve because people know what real stuff looks like now.
I'd never worked harder for anything.
He knows a golden rule that very few even directors know. There's no separation between story and action. The story doesn't stop because we start driving a car or start shooting a gun.
For me, action has always been about if I'm there, then that connection between the audience and I and the character is close to visceral emotional impact. Over the years of doing the John Wick training, the physicality, the martial arts, and then the weapon work, I've gotten better. So I'm really the ceiling because the vision is always bigger than me. And when you're the limit, you can always get better because the vision is always greater than you. And for me, it's such a pleasure and a pressure, but also it's the best kind of like, you've got to be better to realize the vision because then the character and the story can be more profound. And with John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum, the vision was really high.
Our goal is to have the actors do as much as possible so we can have the longest takes with them in action, and then we'll jump in if, you know, insurance or we just feel that they're not going to be safe in something like a car hit or high fall or anything like that.
We're gonna sit in a gym for 6 months and just get as good as a stunt guy. Not learn moves, but literally be trained as a martial arts stunt performer. Your own falls, your own rides, your own cars, your own motorcycles, and get in the mix.
I think if there's any other action actor or actor, there wouldn't be a John Wick. I think he's the only one that can play him. He can do everything. He's just as good as any stunt guy out there.
Keanu has spent over 1,000 hours with Taron Butler, one of the best 3-gun firearm champions in the world. He spent thousands of hours with the 8711 stunt team learning judo, jiu-jitsu, sambo, and all the arts that come along with it. Not just the art form of martial arts, but the choreography sense of it, the endurance sense of it. And being over 50, the physical limitations that one gets at that age has to be overcome with even more hours of physical fitness training.
It really was one of the hardest, if not the hardest, physical stories I've had to tell. Because there's a lot more action in Parabellum than there is in the other 2 films.
When we train him, we'll go for hours and hours and hours, and he just won't stop.
I mean, you don't get to show up and do what he does without having a stellar work ethic. He's determined, he's relentless in his pursuit, he's talented in this area, and he's fearless. He will try and do anything, and he won't stop until he gets it right. He puts in the time, and you can't be John Wick if you didn't really go to the gym, go to the training facility, and actually put in the work.
Eric Brown and Chad, they made him an actual judo person. That's what he's accomplished over these 3 movies.
You can't just do one take and move on. It is 12 hours a day for weeks, sometimes months of action. In John Wick 3, 5 months of nothing but action sequences is a lot. In the rain, in New York, running up and down Fifth Avenue, riding horses, riding motorcycles, and getting the shit kicked out of you by some of the best martial arts stuntmen in the business. That takes a level of commitment that is not normal.
It's demanding. But that demanding, that thing, is also, it's pleasure, right? Which I love.
That's what makes him special. He understands the connection. He understands why he's doing it, and he's more than willing to give the time. And if you see the other cast members that went through the same action training in Parabellum, they understand the same level of commitment. I'm not sure who hired who. I can't tell if I hired Hallie or she hired me.
You know, he should not be telling people that.
So we put the word out like, look, we're looking for someone that really believed in the acting side of it and who was willing to give us the time to train her to be a little bit more on the action side of things. I wanted the transformation.
I just said, well, can I go in and talk to him? Because I think he's just amazing. And I just want to tell him that I'm going to do this movie, and I just want him to meet me because I think he should meet me.
Dude up there. It was right after Christmas as we were prepping the show. I got a knock on the office door, and it was Halle Berry. I'm like, hi. And she's like, hi, I'm Halle. I'm like, I know who you are.
And I told him, I said, I just love this. And I said, I really want to do it. So if you haven't written it, why don't you think about writing it for me? Because I promise you I'll kill it. And then a few days later, I left there, and he called back, and he said, okay, I want you to kill it. Just know you're not going to have a life for about 6, 8, 9 months.
And it's not fun. It's fun for like the first week, and then it's the diet, the physical training. You know, we have this idea we want to do with dogs and firearms.
I said, great, sign me up.
Some people say they want to do John Wick training, and then it starts. And then they're like, oh, this is John Wick training. And when Halle Berry said she wanted to do that, Chadwick said, here you go. And Halle said, thank you, sir. Can I please have some more?
Probably the hardest 6, 7 months I think I've experienced in my professional life. 8711 is like a place you've never seen. There's so many stuntmen and women there, and they're all of the Chad world, which is you work hard, you don't quit, you don't rest much, and if you're hurt, so what? You just come back and you do it again tomorrow. There's no room for complaining. It's just put your head down and do the work.
She did a great job. Lots of punching, kicking, throwing guys in the air, all sorts of good stuff.
Heidi Moneymaker, I think she was the key for me, because when I first started training, Chad was in New York with Keanu, and Heidi was my lifeline, and she started my training.
We're really lucky that, one, Halle has been very athletic her whole life.
I was a gymnast as a kid, so all of this just allows me to sort of use all the things that I used to know. Some stuff I still know, some stuff I'm having to learn over again.
And two, she's such a hard worker. You have to start everyone at the beginning and give them a really basic foundation, and that's what we've done with her. But she picks stuff up really fast, and if she doesn't, she'll stay in it until she does.
I would just not quit.
I don't think she ever missed a workout in the 5 months.
I learned judo, jiu-jitsu, gun fu, hand-foot combat. The hardest part is, one, stamina. You know, sometimes we're in here 4 hours and just nonstop for me. So it's about making sure I'm eating right and staying hydrated, because when you get really tired, you lose the ability to think and remember, and nobody wants to get injured. So it's about just trying to keep my energy level up for that long, because I really want to get it.
There's always been a strong female character in the John Wick films, which I love. This time, her style is really similar to John Wick. They kind of come from the same place. She's a real assassin, and she's coming in here and she's spending weeks and weeks and weeks training to become like John Wick.
I had to learn to fight, one, like Keanu, and I had to learn to fight with him in very close proximity. And I think that was new for Keanu, too, because he was used to doing it all by himself. When I come into the movie, he has a partner that he's fighting with that's trained very much like him. Things that he's really good at, I had to learn how to do.
But it has a more of a female-driven spark to it. But I'm always thinking, at my size, how could I actually take this guy down? So that's kind of what we've done with Halle, is like, okay, here's a bunch of cool throws, and what would actually work in a bar if I had to actually take down a guy? So that's kind of what we've done, is gone back and tried to figure out what a smaller woman could do to these big, tall, 6'4" guys, and really actually in real life take them down.
Things that just, not only are they needed for this movie, but they will serve me in life.
She's been doing great with the gun fu. She's been doing great out at the range, you know, with live rounds. I don't think she really likes guns in the first place.
The first session I had, I literally broke out in hives. I was so uncomfortable holding something so powerful and a bit afraid of it. What helped me was I connected to the thought that while I'll never own a gun, I have 2 small children. And if someone ever pulled a gun on me, now I would know what to do with it if I was lucky enough to get it away from them, you know? And with all of my other John Wick training, I might get it away. And when I get it, I have to know what to do with it in order to save, you know, my family. So once I connected to that was the reason I was doing this training, then I sailed. And I realized my first day of shooting that having trained for 6 months was essential in getting through this process and not blowing up the place.
They're willing to put in the time to become the character.
Really worked really hard for months and months.
It's just taking that time to constantly hone your skills, create new ones, just move on from there.
And now I think I have the bug. Like, I just want to keep going and going and going and going.
John Wick, excommunicado.
3, 2,
1.
When we were finishing chapter 2, I was like, okay, the park, John is running for his life. Let's get John on a horse. Chad was like, yes.
What better to be a modern-day cowboy than a guy in a three-piece suit shooting guys on a horse?
And it was not only what we wanted to see, but then also we got to respond to reactions from the audience of what they might be interested in. And it turned out that those aligned.
We've always talked about our influences, both Keanu and myself, from spaghetti westerns to samurai films to some of the great Asian action films.
All of these gifts, all of these gifts.
The earliest thing I had in my notebook is going to an old gun shop and assembling a great gun out of a lot of different pieces. It's our way of letting the audience know that we're having fun with you, we're not taking ourselves too seriously, and it's a little kickback to films we love.
There's a lot more action, more sequences, different kinds of action. Hallie had the dogs and I had the horse training. Chad was like, time to train on a horse. And I was like, yes.
The thing I like about him the most is he has a lot of respect for the animals. He learned all the different horses. He rode an American saddlebred, it was actually Stallion, and American Morgans.
Riding a horse was too easy for Keanu Reeves, so we had him do trick riding.
As we used trick riding horses, he was able to hang on the side and recover.
Legend, Tad Griffin.
He had to be comfortable at high rates of speed. Had to be fast. One move had to be into the next move. There couldn't be a lot of downtime getting from one spot to another.
I want to like come in at speed and then just go, come on!
Chad asked Scott and I to come up with different scenarios that a person in a close fight could actually use horses as shields and as weapons, and ultimately as a getaway. We started incorporating kicks and strikes and rares. The one thing that hasn't been seen before would be a horse kicking with both feet at someone.
We had to figure out ways to actually make it safe and convenient for a horse to ride through Brooklyn with Keanu Reeves in charge as he's hanging off the side and underneath the horse, shooting bad guys on motorcycles that were trying to pull him off the horse.
Everybody feels the need to really bump up the action to set itself apart. Difference being, this is real.
The only production foolish enough to try and do a horse chase through New York City.
There is a number of shots that I didn't know if we would ever be able to pull that off.
The Humane Society said you cannot have horses running on that kind of a surface. And so we put giant rubber pads down that covered the entire street. There's no street in Bensonhurst that has random rubber mats everywhere. Not even in New York does that happen. We then had to take them out digitally, which actually meant complete CG replacement of the roads.
But when you see John Wick doing all the massive fight choreography and the longer takes on the motorcycle and the horse, that's actually Keanu Reeves because that is his talent ability. We push him to his limits and he operates or performs at his limit.
Get off the saddle, go sideways, hold on to the neck, and then shoot somebody. And that was next level. The idea was, how can I do these tricks and be safe? So Scott developed this idea of a movie truck, some girders, and we'll pick you, and we'll do wire work on a horse. And Chad will sit on the top of this thing on a perch, and he'll guide the horses, and then you'll ride in this contraption.
We didn't have to do it 100 times because he'd already perfected it. When they rolled cameras, Keanu nailed it.
You can't fake the training. Watching Keanu gallop 22 miles an hour through traffic is pretty extraordinary.
I love John Wick.
It's exciting to be able to come out and spend time in LA with the people behind it and kind of learn how they put it together is amazing. It reminds me of the kind of action movies my dad secretly showed me when I was far too young to watch them. Hi, I'm Mike Biffle, and I'm here today with the 8711 stunt team. These are the guys behind the amazing work across John Wick, and we're going to be learning from them. We're going to be seeing some of their moves. I'm probably going to get my ass kicked, and we're going to see how we can incorporate some of those ideas into the game.
If I throw him, that gives me time to go, I just grab my pistol, boom. Hi, I'm Jonathan Eusebio from the 8711 stunt team. I served as the stunt coordinator, fight coordinator for the film series. And today we're gonna have Mike throw us around the room, and then we're gonna kind of teach him and the the tactics and mindset that John Wick does for the movies. We'll give him a little taste of what, how John Wick comes and recognizes the problem, sees the problem, solves the problem. That's kind of the John Wick style, right? He sees it, he goes, oh crap, I gotta figure this out. My hand's buzzed, I can't use this hand, I gotta, you know what I mean? Good. Yes!
So I'm a storyteller. My games often focus on that and telling these interesting stories, and John Wick was such an amazing opportunity. This universe that's fantastical and mythical, has these larger-than-life characters, secret society, all that good stuff, that meaty story stuff. And I wanted to tell a story that kind of translated that universe into a game's context. We were working on a bunch of other concepts for games, and then Good Shepherd came to us with this idea of potentially making a John Wick game. I didn't believe it at first. I'm a massive action movie fan. When we got that opportunity, we just dove in. We started building prototypes and experiments. I was very cautious because I didn't want to make a bad John Wick game, because this is important. This is a film franchise that matters.
So all I want you to do here is if he goes to the shoulder, I want you to step to the side, almost like this hand takes the place of your shoulder. Let him come to you. Yes.
We wanted to build a game and an approach to playing that was completely focused on being John Wick.
It's a good transition from the film world to the video game world. It's not like I watch a video game, I go, oh, they didn't watch them. It's nothing from the movie. Now they can actually be John Wick. So I just move my shoulder and I backstep. See, you end up in neutral position. Yes, just like that. See how easy that felt? Yeah. When choreograph, you have to figure out what style of fighting or what style of movement we're going to use. And from the very, very beginning, I mean, the filmmakers wanted to make it based off judo. So judo, it's all based off momentum.
So when you're watching John Wick, the thing that strikes you first about the fight scenes is the momentum, is the energy, that kind of forward push through the space. That's part of all of the films. But we also wanted to get that sense of strategy, of decision making. So that's a balancing act, because we don't want to make a game that's so slow that you're making decisions and it doesn't feel like it has the energy of that action scene. But we also didn't want to make a game which felt like a dumb shoot 'em up.
He's basically moving, so one, he knows what's behind him at all times, and having something between him and more threats. So all his choreography or all his movements, there's a purpose to everything, there's an intent. And from here, almost just grab his palm, there we go, let's go to that, and let's just walk it, 1, 2 steps, yes. Remember, John Wick always moves. Yes, see, good, yeah, right?
A really key moment, and it's only a few seconds, that I really kept going back to while we were making the game, was in the first movie, a moment where John's out of bullets. So he stuns an enemy, gives them a moment of pause where they can't attack him, reloads his gun, and then shoots and finishes that character. That was one that I kept coming back to, as we need to have something like this in the game.
So we just wanted to make sure we're coming from a place that tactically it feels correct, because those little nuances, those details is what law enforcement guy, military guy, they look at that stuff. They go, oh, he didn't really train. He's missing those little nuances. And those little nuances are the most important. Whatever the empty spaces, that's the reload, the gun stuff. That's where the gun food comes in too. Because otherwise I would just be out here shooting everybody. The fun of it is you're in close quarters, you're getting surrounded, you have to change your angles.
So what we did was we built this system of interrupts and stunning, where you can, as a player, if your gun's out of ammo, you can literally do that in our game. You can stun an enemy with a quick punch. That's going to take him out of action for a short space of time, which is going to give you time to reload your gun. Then we add depth to that with different moves that have different durations of stun. So it might be the case that you can actually take someone down, right down to the ground, and it's going to take them a while to get back up. That's going to give you more than time just to reload your gun. You can take out their 2 buddies behind them while they're still staggering back up.
Now from here, this hand that's on his face, I'm going to almost make a circle, like a big circle like that. See? See, everything's big. Then from here, I'm going to hit him in the kidney. Then I'm gonna make another circle with this hand. I break his arm. Then I use this as my fulcrum. So now your 180 is not from the wrap, it's from my shoulder. Goes back to where it started.
The replay was something, it was actually something that came from Lionsgate Games and from the filmmakers, was that they were seeing this game that was cool and strategic and kind of let you play as John Wick, but crucially you weren't getting the experience of being John Wick in the movie. We wanted to give a mode to the game and an ability to the game to let you see a fight you just taken part in and that you just kind of choreographed through your own play as essentially a little movie. And that's what the replays are. And we had to do a lot of work to build that up, but we're really happy with where they went.
And action! That's it. Nice. Awesome, dude.
That's great. Thanks so much for your time, man. I appreciate it.
Pleasure, man. Pleasure.
Oh, I'm tired. I'm tired.
I just want to give you a little glimpse of like, you know, what we do in the film and how we kind of, our thought processes and how we do these things.
That's the thing, is bringing that thought process to bear. A, it's going to help us with the animation, but B, it tells us how we're going to teach the players to play the game.
Exactly.
We want the player thinking in that way. We want the player making those tactical choices.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
Oh, you did a good job, man. As it shows.
I'm a little hard. Yeah, no, I've worked hard. No one can say I didn't work hard.
Really good job.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
And do you feel like Mike and his team got that right?
Oh yeah, I'm loving it. I kind of want to play it right now.
What I think a great editor is really good at is taking away. You have a block of gold, but it's not saying anything. It's the sculptor's job to take away the unessentials. You let the statue become. It's the sculpting of what you have. That's a great example or analogy for a film. I challenge any director to take the same attitude he has for action and do a dialogue scene that way. You would never do it. It's like going on your honeymoon, man. If you don't bring magic with you, you ain't gonna find it on Tahiti. It's already gotta be there. You gotta have the magic with you. So what do editors have to do?
3, 2,
1. Directors, we fall in love with our own work. An editor is trying to love your work as well, but he's also trying to push the story through. You'll constantly hear in the edit room, shouldn't that be a little longer? No, we got it. We want to get to the meat of the scene. I think that's where editors have a different vibe. I'm constantly amazed how, when they were written, certain scenes mean or were meant to say something, and how Evan can take them and mold them into something slightly different that keeps the pacing going, uplifts, accentuates something we're trying to say in the story.
Welcome to the Continental.
There are magical cuts. You'd be surprised how much 3 frames can change a bit of choreography. It is a big deal. I do my pass, Evan does his pass. You'd be surprised how close we actually are in finding the frame.
For an action scene, there are a lot of considerations that go into where exactly I cut. I try to take each take as long as I can until something breaks. Try to find the best take from the best angle so I can see the action, see what's going on, really highlight all the sets, the choreography, the lighting, make sure that all the work that's gone into making this footage is actually seen, and then take that up until I need to cut.
You're always searching for the great frame, but it's pretty obvious where the shitty ones are. We have 19 little action set pieces throughout this thing. If you were off 3-4 frames on every edit, that changes not just the action sequence or a fight or a movie, it changes the movie. It matters a lot. Editing is meant to augment a good take, a bad take, or to bring something else out of it.
In an action scene, choosing the actual frame to cut on, it's not that hard. A lot of it is intuition of, okay, if I cut from here to there, am I seeing the same motion twice? Do I feel like this cut is bumping me?
There should be no bump. Bump is when you realize it's an edit. Meaning, are there missed frames? Do we jump sides? Is there a lot of editing? I try to make it as organic as I can naturally. I want you to feel like you are watching my cast member do an action sequence. I want you to feel organic. Evan's on super early. After 2 movies, he knows how I'm gonna shoot. He knows what the gags are. get like the knife fight. It's a snowball fight with knives bouncing off people. He knows what we're trying to get.
If one of the triads is throwing a knife and it lands in between Keanu's legs, I want to be on the angle of Keanu where you see his eyes go like, oh, holy shit, knife just almost hit me in the balls. And then he picks it up and throws it. Then obviously you want to see the reverse of that, where you see where that knife goes and where it hits. And we will often do a cut that might work, but it's sort of riding the line, and then ultimately go back and be like, you know what, I'd rather have the extra 5 seconds that it'll take to not bring the audience out with a bad cut.
That vibe could very easily have been lost, even in the footage I gave Evan. He could have cut back and forth and cut out the bouncing off. I mean, heroes don't miss. Ours do. I love live performances. I love sitting in a theater. I love watching a dance performance. Most of the martial arts I choreograph are based on a dance-like structure. Sit back and watch the performance. Coming from a heavy martial art background, just sitting on the sides, I try to register through observation. At least my action editing theory and style is based on how you see it with your eye. If you go in to watch a dance performance or a musical or a ballet and just all of a sudden shift it because somebody fell down, or do you have somebody in front of your face going like this? I mean, that's the equivalent of fast editing. You're doing fast editing. It's a chaotic scene. The guy's not a fighter, and all this becomes a blur. You're trying to get what it's like to have somebody new that's never been in combat before thrown into chaos, and that's a great way to create that vibe.
Nice trick.
So I approach certain action sequences from the standpoint of a choreographer. You have duets, you have solos. Most of John Wick has always been a solo. I wanted to do a duet. Through serendipitous events, we ended up, luckily, getting Halle Berry to play Sophia in the film. This is all one take. There's another guy, sees this guy coming up, shoots him, and then from off camera, doggy one comes in, looks back, sees another guy still in the same shot. Another doggy comes in, now in the same stuff, she walks forward, reveals the dog still attacking the guy, and revolves back. Once you get into action sequences, can you get lost in it? Yes, and sometimes we actually want you to get lost in it. Other times we want you to identify where you are. In the Riyadh here, I want you to understand what the geography is to a point. You can jump geographically and in the timeline. And then we get midway, we want you to get lost in it.
We get to do, you know, our John Wick sort of signature of these, you know, longer sections without also feeling like you've lost track of whichever character's not on screen.
You think again, like playing with John Wick's going different angles. He's into long range to close quarter work. You think it's a bit of an action sequence. He throws this guy down. Camera lifts up, exposes our first dog gag. It's our first edit. Taking guys down, reveal our second dog gag. Oh look, and John Wick was waiting right there. He comes right in. Basically what you saw, even though there were 2 edits in it, was one take with 2 cameras. What's the worst place for a ninja to hide? Oh wait, let's do a glass house.
The constraints that this particular set piece places on them, that gives you an idea as an audience member of how our characters are going to have to adapt to this situation. We know that John is great with a gun. If we take that away from him because he can't shoot Zero through the glass, what does he do next?
And again, if you're going for power, at least you have a plan. You want to feel pain every time. How do you interpret that? Is it always on the impact of fist on body? Or is it on the actor's face? Or is it seeing both? That's a director and editor's decision on how to bring out performance. I want to get an organic performance. When he fights Chep and Yeon, the 2 smaller Sealot guys, so it's more whippy. The sound design, they have a higher whack, whack, whack. And he's hitting them, it's more thud, 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 big guy. But when he fights Boban, the much taller guy, Boban's a thud, 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 and Keanu's a whack, whack, whack. Those size gags don't work without the proper editing. And if it's choppy, 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 or I don't know what you're trying to tell me when I see that. You'd be surprised about how many practical visual effects are done with glass. Matte paintings, glass, reflection, refraction, and perspective changes. You see, we just came up with the ideas of how to hide with black, and we go in between this, and that's how just the reflections and refractions of light help hide different people. Which, you know, in our John Wick world, reflection, 2 sides of everything, economies are a big part of our storytelling. For any of the shots here, you're hopefully seeing layers, and you're seeing how beautiful it can be. Sometimes the glass is bulletproof, sometimes it's sword-proof. You know, we're not exactly adherent to physics, but hopefully it's fun.
If there's a particular moment where we need to make sure that you understand this glass is breaking or that we have cracked the glass, those are all instances where sound design becomes really important to establish what's actually happening on the screen.
If editing is used as a creative tool, it's fantastic. But if you prep everything right and you do it right, then yeah, you can fuck it up in editing, but you have the choice to do something good in editing too. The scene's gonna be about more of just cool moves. It should be a look, a feel, a vibe. It's just like camera work. Great camera work plays. Great performances play. Cameramen do their job, cinematographer does his job, editor does his job. If you all work together, you're going to get something good. And sometimes I get stuck. I know in my head it doesn't really work, and that's when I go to Evan.
What must be done?
I love architecture. I love figuring out ways to make set pieces more intricate into the action. John Wick just gives the opportunity to let loose a little bit and help create something that's original.
Our sets are incredible. Kevin Cavanaugh and his team designed some really amazing sets. They're all spectacular.
You know, in 2 we did a mirror room, in 3 we have this insane glass house that was a multi-million-dollar set, which had to be designed by engineers, and it's just a logistical nightmare.
So we thought the coolest place to hide ninjas was a place that you can't hide anything, which is an entire house made out of glass. I think it's a very good reference to ninjas and what they can do optically and hide their presence.
When we first got in there, like, the sets weren't built yet. We can kind of visualize it. Chad actually had the set built VR.
Luckily, I was able to have a VR department that we were able to design the set in virtual reality.
This is the art department for John Wick 3. Originally, these sets were 2D concept art, just drawings. Normally, the typical thing that we do in film is create a model. We'll stand around that model and view it, and then we kind of took all that data and brought it into the computer, and then actually have digital versions of them that we can explore before even one nail gets hammered on the actual physical sets.
So I was able to design a couple ideas and have Chad come into the art department and put on the VR goggles and see if he liked some ideas that we were experimenting with, and have the stunt coordinator come in and the lighting, Dan Louston, come in and talk about lighting. So the virtual reality was a big part of the design aspect of the set.
The ideal situation for this is to have something like this on a sound stage and being able to walk, explore, and plan out your scenes.
We had to work simultaneously with the stunts and some of the action sequence that happens there.
This is reflected on how big actually one of the floors are. This allows us to design action without actually having to be on the actual practical set. Coming into these virtual sets early allows us to make any changes or modifications. So if everyone's happy, we can actually make the practical set to all our specifications.
Chad had me put on these VR glasses, and he had the whole set in there. So I got to walk it virtually and listen to him talk about what he wanted to do.
You can actually go into these scenes and you can build them on the actual sound stages and see what they'll look like.
Cut to, months later, we're actually shooting the scene and I'm part of it.
Once it was built and we scouted it and then we started looking at it and then they started lighting it and brought it up, it was stunning. I mean, it's just a stunning set piece.
The glass house is amazing, that design of that set, and that's lit with only LED lights. I think we empty more or less New York for thousands of feet of LED lights. And that's a fantastic studio build as well.
Glass house is also very expensive. It's not only for set, but like real building.
It's more of an upgrade to the mirror room where you kind of see the reflections and see what's going on. This one is like, you can't see anything.
Just getting to where we were supposed to fight was a little bit challenging because of all the glass. A couple people actually ran into the glass, and I always made sure to put my hand out, my foot out first, because I wasn't sure. It's very spooky, but very cool.
So we tried to put, how does a ninja hide in a glass house, and kind of create that problem for ourselves. The fact that we could still do it practically without VFX helping us out and how to hide all these guys within a house completely made of glass was what we wanted to do.
We're playing a lot with the optical illusions, using the lighting and all the reflections and refractions from the glass.
Because of certain practical lighting effects and camera angles, we could hide the guys throughout the glass house.
And that's a combination between you and VisFX and practical effects, because they have a lot to do. They got to erase reflections and try to shoot so we don't see the reflections.
We wanted to utilize the glass house as much as possible, so we took that fight and went through every inch of that floor.
What would you do when you fight in a glass house? Be careful not to break anything, but in this case, everything's gonna break.
So it will break while the action. For us, it's also very interesting how we will do while the real shooting.
When you have glass and lots of stunt guys and someone like Chad, you can't wait to start breaking glass and the ideas of what that would look like. So we're about ready to get into some serious glass shattering the next couple days.
Anytime you go through glass, there's all these injuries that can happen. Even though we rig it, you're gonna get cut. That's just an inevitability. No matter what, you're gonna get cut. You get glass in your eye. There's so many things involved.
It's a lot of practical effects. We did a lot of testing with tempered glass, half-inch thick tempered glass. And we have different methods for different stunts that take place. Some of it's thinner, some of it's thicker, depending on what the action is. Some of it doesn't break at all, and these guys get slammed into it, so it can't break. Depending on what the stunts are and what we come up with, we have to kind of move left or right, depending on what the stunt requires.
We had a special effects team actually use pyro to shatter all this glass, and then we could only do that one time because the reset time is so significant.
Total glass stunts in general, I think was around 10 or 11. First take, we were like, yeah, let's just destroy as much as we can. Yeah, it was just so much glass. At least they weren't mirrors, so I don't have to worry about luck or anything. Oh, that's right, we broke through the ground. Wick picks up the Chet fireman carries Chet. He lands on the glass. I felt bad for the stunt guy that I had to do it to because we did it like 5 times. And then, so what we did was we were all in wires, and then we took the glass away, so we're just hanging there. And also a throwback to the first movie when Daniel Bernhardt throws me over the balcony in the red circle. Pretty much just hung us, and then it's called a 3-ring, which we pull a tag and you just fall. And it was probably about 9 or 10 feet, just straight to the ground. And it was so painful.
I said to Chad already, after finish with the movie, how they will do with the building. So Chad said we throw away. For us, it looks like real building. How cannot just sell to someone who want to collect?
Any project made by filmmakers that love film, you're gonna see it. You have a group of people that not just love what they do, but love the type of movies that we're making. And that's why people put in the extra work, and I think that's why people on their day off come to the stunt rehearsals, because not only do they want to be a part of it, they want to be better at what they do. You know, the cameramen not just want to get there and get the shot, they want to get there, get the shot, and know so that the next time they work, they'll have more experience. They want to be part of the process. From our nondescript stuntmen all the way up to our doubles, to our cameraman, to our cinematographer, to myself, to our cast. When everyone sees everyone working hard, you want to work harder.
I'll catch up to you, John.
No, you won't.
Here, let's say, let's run! Aww.
As far as dog movies that I've worked on, this is one of the most ambitious, without a doubt.
John Wick has definitely penetrated the zeitgeist with his love of dogs.
It really goes back to Chad's idea of gun foo, horse foo, dog foo.
To have multiple dogs that are doing this with gunfire going around, flips.
Canine, human, bad guy, gunfire.
That is what's really cool about the training that we've been able to do.
They're that precise, these dogs, he said a week later in hospital. It's all going to go very smoothly.
Probably inadvertently, we became kind of a dog film. You can always get bigger and bigger guns, but why not go the canine route?
Chad loves dogs, and so, you know, obviously, I think was looking to incorporate that into his vision of his action.
To train a dog from a smaller adolescent age to an adult, there was a way to do it so that it was beneficial to the animal and safe for both the animal and the stunt performer. bumped into a trainer named Andrew Sensen, very famous, does all the wolves in Game of Thrones. We wanted to train the dogs in a playful way to actually become stunt dogs. We got together some of the best acrobats and martial artists in the industry. So if this was the bite, you get the dog to twist. Got them together with 5 Belgian Malinois dogs that we had went out and cast for both intelligence and physicality. Hello, oh, I know, hi, yes, hi.
He's older, he's 2.
He's like solid.
This one we have dogs that we bought at birth and have been training for 7 months prior.
I mean, they went specifically out and found young dogs that were trained specifically for the movie.
These are dogs that the military uses. They're like really smart, strong, agile. They could literally climb a vertical wall.
Most animals are taught to calm down and not have that level of aggressiveness during playtime, for obvious reasons.
See when they perk their ears like that means they're looking at food.
Belgian Malinois are known for their ability to, more than just attack, to actually hit, to jump and dive and basically punch you with their nose.
We were training both acting dogs and stunt dogs.
Is that the dog? He likes you.
So it ends up being a lot more complicated because they are almost doing 2 different things.
Teach them how to be ninjas. We decided, well, we can't have the trainers where we always want them to be, so the best way to do it was train the cast to be the on-camera trainer.
It was a real relationship that was built, and there were 5 of them. I could command them just like the trainers could command them. So I would spend 4 days a week out there with the dogs, 2-3 hours a day, and I would just go through the drills with them just like the trainers. As the trainers were learning who they were, I was learning who they were. They're ferocious looking, and they're doing some amazing stunts, but they're also really sweet. So I get a certain amount of time to just love on them and play with them, and then I have another set of time where I work with training them. When we're actually shooting, I can actually command them and tell them what to do, and they'll actually, hopefully, on the day, listen to me.
Allie spent over 8 months on and off working with the trainers, to a point where when I was training with her, the trainer said to me, yeah, they treat her like a trainer.
I think she really understood what she was up against, and she couldn't come in with anything less than everything she had.
We've been training them since January. We're going to bring them to Morocco. We have to bring them there 4 or 5 weeks before we get there to get acclimated to the weather because it's really hot there.
Who knows what we encounter in Morocco, but this is all about being able to walk into those situations and rely on the dog to do what we've trained him to do.
Morocco is one of the most challenging filmmaking experiences I'm sure I will ever have.
Having trained for 6 months was essential in getting through this process and not blowing up the place. There's cats everywhere, and when my dogs saw cats, they went ballistic. We'd be in the middle of a scene, and all of a sudden a cat would come strolling by, and off goes the dog, because at the end of the day, they're animals. Their nature says, you know, go get that cat. Before every scene, somebody would come in and do a cat sweep and try to get all the cats out of the square. But Chad's takes are so long, inevitably, during a take, a cat would, you know, wander through the set, and then there goes the dogs.
So Hallie would be giving commands on the day that told the dogs where to go during the takes.
There's a lot of atmospheric smoke for camera, you know, a lot of different lights and a lot of different sounds. So for them, it's taken a minute to get used to it, but they're performing excellently. They've been doing a really good job. They've really trained the work with Hallie when she's needing them to do, you know, precision movements.
And then there's some complicated acting scenes where you just need a dog to sit and stay while dialogue goes on, but keep that gaze locked. You know, like these are supposed to be Sophia's weapons.
Sit.
They are focused on protecting her.
They have a sense of play, but they also are known to, like, attack on command.
What most people don't know is when you see a dog attack a stunt person or a trainer on camera, it's a dog trying to kill the individual. The dog doesn't know it's a movie.
We've got so many different kinds of hits. We want to target the dog to a leg, or to an arm, or to a chest. You start just with just a device used to focus the dog to a certain area. It's called a tug. To be able to say, no, don't hit that guy, don't hit that guy, hit that guy 30 feet away.
When you show them the toy that they want to hit, it's on.
They're not just biting, slowly coming in, they're slamming into people. So when you're trying to ask dogs to do that, but be safe, it's very ambitious.
Sophia, always so nice to see you. And the dogs, of course, are marvelous. So I turned up just to meet them and have a little gun rehearsal. Fantastic. And before I knew it, I was doing this kind of dog versus my crutch stunt, which was not expected.
God bless Jerome Flynn. He went for it. He did the stunt.
I mean, there's a dog involved and my crutch. So, yeah, that's going to be a new experience for me. But I didn't see that coming.
Pound for pound, their strength is extraordinary. I mean, I'm watching them pull a 180-pound guy across the ground. And these dogs, I don't think, weigh 60 pounds.
You shot my dog.
I get it.
Behind the scenes is actually the dog just playing, and it's just them doing what they naturally do. Now that we've just finished shooting that sequence, I think it's going to be everything that, you know, we had wished it could be.
We just found talented individuals to do the hard work that it would take to pull off the shots.
What's going to end up on screen is going to look like these killer animals.
I would say 80% of the people I know have a pet, either dog or cat, preferably dogs mostly, and, you know, dogs show you who you are. Like, they know character better than anybody.
It was a relationship, and a really lovely one. I'm an animal person. I have 2 dogs myself, so that was the sweetest part of my day, to go and hang out with the dogs.
John Wick, excommunicado, in effect in 5.
In our world, there's a big portion of the population that are hired assassins.
4.
They're after him for the money.
3.
They're after him for committing the crimes he did. And there's also some freelance individuals that would like to take revenge on John for his past deeds.
1.
John kind of gets overwhelmed in chapter 3. There's probably more action in Parabellum than there is in the 2 films combined.
I mean, I remember when I read the first spec script of John Wick, and I knew that audiences would immediately kind of latch on to a whole underbelly of assassins in a world we hadn't seen before.
It's nice to see him fight guys of similar skill, and there's more variety in this one.
I'm a huge film fan and film buff. We've always talked about our influences, both Keanu and myself, from Sergio Leone to Akira Kurosawa to Tarkovsky to samurai films to some of the great Hong Kong films, and we try to just put these references for all the things we love. So you have a movie where a guy goes and kills north of 150 people over a puppy, fights ninjas, and shoots a lot of people in the head.
Chad had this idea that he wanted to bring in ninjas.
But we didn't want to call them ninjas because the John Wick fight ninja sounds a little weird. So character's name Zero is played by Mark Dacascos.
We were looking for who could play Zero, and Chad thought of Mark Dacascos, who has a profound martial arts background and action movie background and experience.
And I have to confess that before I actually saw John Wick, a friend of mine, Michael Stratford, he said, "You've got to watch these movies. I think you're gonna like this." Cut to months later, and I'm part of it. Oh, I wish I could tell you that Chad called me up and I had 8 months of rehearsals and practice and training. I did not. I literally got a text from Chad on a Sunday night. It said, "Call me as soon as you wake up." So on Monday morning, I call him up. Chad is very cryptic. And I said, "What's going on?" He goes, "Well, our original lead villain is out, and I would like to invite you to be him." I read the script. It's great. It's great. So I call him back up. I said, "Chad, I would absolutely love to be a part of this. When would you like me out there?" He says, "Can you come tonight?"
Mark came in, and then he started to play with the role, and in rehearsals, this character of Zero came to life. Zero is actually a fan of John Wick's and is really looking forward to being the one who will kill him.
I gotta tell you, I've been looking forward to meeting you for a long time. I'm a huge fan, and so far you haven't disappointed. Nobody else in his mind is worthy of that. Nobody else loves John Wick more than Zero, so it should be Zero who takes John Wick out. He feels like he's on par with John. His style, his grace, his class, his efficiency, how brutal and violent he is.
but still a gentleman.
Only by my blade, John.
Zero is a shinobi, a ninja warrior, and he loves martial arts so much that he has students. He cares for his students like children. He loves his students. He wants to pass on the skills that he has, because that's what people that have the artistry and skill and talent as himself do.
When Chad was thinking of Zero's students who could become the ninja or shinobi, it was like, let's reach out to Yeon and Chep, who, I came exposed to in the raid.
I'm Yayan Ruhian. My name is Cecep Arif Rahman. My background is pencak silat. Pencak silat is sometimes like dancing, sometimes like hard, sometimes soft.
We have the Japanese arts as a base, but because of fighting and killing all over the world, we take whatever is useful to us and we incorporate that into our style. So the shinobi, our clan, specialize in camouflage, in covert operations. You don't see us unless we want to be seen. We can fold in and out of people and furniture.
We love the theory of dance and dance choreography, which is very influential in our stunt choreography. So you'll see the actual New York City Ballet performing for us in this, and we choreograph in parallel or in reference, almost a physical metaphor for what they do. And that's why our sequences look the way they do.
Chad really has a great respect for ballet and the physicality and athleticism of it. And I think because he was, a stunt person himself, so he understands what it takes to kind of choreograph those sequences.
Then we put ninjas in. We'll back it up for like the last, whatever we need lead in. And we'll work with the dancers a little bit of timing for them to walk through them. And then when we get all that timed out, clear the dancers, let ninja guys come out.
I think that ballet is such a good match for anything that's intense, tougher than it looks, and not for the faint of heart. I think it's so challenging, and what we do and what we portray is something so stunning and beautiful and effortless. But the work behind it, which is awesome that you're seeing this side of ballet, is the part that I think really does vibe really well with the John Wick world.
We've hinted at other gangs in the Bowery King's army. It's been fun because they are the antithesis of the high table, and the high table is comfortable in their power because they've had it for so long, but they don't understand the power that the quote-unquote dregs actually wield.
Long live the king. The world of the Bowery is run by myself, the Bowery King, and there's been a truce in existence between these two worlds, that they will coexist, that they will cooperate, that they will not encroach upon each other's territory, that they will basically abide by the collective rules set by the high table.
The Bowery King explains in the second movie that nobody looks at the homeless. The homeless are invisible. And so they are allowed to operate and move within the city unnoticed.
I'm a huge fan of Westerns, and I like the standoffs. That's why you hear the Western cues. I love duels. I think duels are cool model stuff. It fits very well in our world. In our world, there's a twisted code of honor and dueling and how they have to respect each other when you're that good an assassin. In number 2, we went to Italy, and we figured, well, what's an older culture? We decided, okay, let's go the Arabic route.
Welcome to Casablanca, Mr. Wick. Thanks.
Well, it's fun because it harkens back to the oldest of the old while adopting the gadgets of the new. And we love the marriage of those two. Chad is very specific with the various fighting styles, and they are much more unintimidated as they face John than anyone else. And at first you might think their over-aggression is foolish, but in reality, it's what actually pins John down. He's not used to fighting fire, which I think Chad wanted to do and did quite well.
I can give you one last chance to earn a life. I will be of service. The cost of your life will be the death of others.
The Ghost Recon is basically the high table's version of the Special Forces. So when these guys come in, it's like, oh, the best of the best. So actually the hardest ones for Wick and the Continental guys to deal with.
They are played by this incredible stunt acting hybrid team, and just watching them work was extraordinary. It is like watching athletes or dancers who are at the top of their profession performing. So it was really great that the adjudicator gets to sort of go in, dole out punishment, and then, you know, go back and have their tea or Netflix and chill or whatever it is that the adjudicator does in their off time while, you know, this Ghost Recon team are out taking care of business.
Need more firepower.
The Ghost Recon are those out there who are unintimidated by John, by heaven or hell. These are the faceless denizens, and yet they are an extension of what the high table truly is. Because when you see the face of the high table, they're understanding, but the Ghost Recon of it all is their soul.
Do what you do best.
What's that?
Hunt.
All three films are about consequence. Do bad things happen to you. So there's really no way for the character to pull out of the dive. John may have succeeded in this hump. He may have dealt with these set of circumstances that surround him for the film. So there's no riding to the sunset, there's no happy ending. There's happy moments, there's funny moments. But at the end of that, he's still fucked.
How do you feel? You pissed, John? Yeah.
Everyone in our world is bad. They're a criminal. They have their own code, their own sense of honor, their own repulsion to authority.
And they want to kill John.
I do hope that Mr. Wick finds his way to safety. Do you expect him to make it out?
$14 million bounty on his head. Every interested party in the city wants a piece of it. I'd say the odds are about even.
We always talk about the curse of the sequel. You try to do something very original, that's why people like you. It's original, it's different. By the very nature of doing a sequel, it can't be as original as the original. So you have a couple choices. You can try to blow more shit up and have bigger spaceships and bigger monsters, or you expand. That's what we try to do with John Wick, just get more in depth to who he is, what his world entails, and how we show that through his own personal journey.
One of the things that we wanted to do in Parabellum was let the audience into a little more of the backstory and open up the world.
Everything about this movie is more, bigger, juicier.
We weren't going about it on the first movie to create this incredibly different, cool, provocative kind of alternate reality. I mean, it was always a part of it, but it was not something we spent that much time on. That just kind of came alive during the making of the movie and when ultimately you watch the movie. And as we've learned, audiences want to know more about that world.
That's something that's really interesting about the movies. Like, not only are you doing these incredibly well executed, incredibly beautifully shot movies with fantastic performances, you're also participating in pretty unique world building on a level that a lot of movies don't even attempt.
How can we expand the universe, the assassins, the high table, the backstory of John Wick?
Where is he from? What does he do? Where is he trained? Where's the tattoo from? Where did they get the skills he does? Is it this? Is he Russian? Is he a Marine? Is he hired assassin? Is he special forces?
But you must never know too much, otherwise you give too much away.
I like staying a little obtuse. I think that's the fun part about some of these movies is it's up to your imagination. So we thought we'd go a little deeper into that, where we believe he comes from, and that's what we call his vague return to his origin.
We meet Angelica Houston, who's playing the director of this place that we learned John Wick is from.
Done. Why have you come home?
She's actually a theatrical director based on this very special kind of theater for a very special kind of performer, or in this case, children.
It's basically a school for young assassins. I probably, in my own time, worked my way up, and now I pretty much run this place.
I think both intellectually and physically, she gives guidance to those under her care, and they go out into specifically trained to either be artists, but artists with a special skill set that go out into our John Wick universe. One of the most important things with mythology is a talisman, a special charm, a special prop that's used to either gain access, either internally or externally, a key to enter somewhere, or a clue to follow. Whether it's gold coins or on number 2 we had markers, and this one we call them tickets. When you graduate from a certain position in life, you're giving a special kind of token that acts as a ticket, and it's good for a one-way trip access. And when you're in your most need, you can come back and turn in your ticket, which gives you a get-out-of-jail-free card just one time. But the penalty is that you can never go back to your origin again.
So he comes to me for an escape. He needs a way out.
Your ticket is torn. Welcome to the Continental. How may I help you?
Each of the major cities around the world has a continental hotel, which is basically a safe zone for all criminals where they come to meet, have a drink, and link into a service environment. We can buy guns and bulletproof suits and hook up with different messages and information and intelligence.
The world in the underground assassin lair was something I had never seen before.
One thing we talked about was to really show the continent on a bigger scale. Apart from the front doors that we see in the exterior, what happens behind the doors? So it's just like whatever idea we could come up with, let's just see if it works in the script.
Walking into the world of John Wick, I really got just totally enveloped by it, and it makes it so much easier to just be fully absorbed into the world of John Wick and say, I'm really here. Everything is in the world. Every prop, every piece of art, everything has been thought out.
We had always thought that the world of the hotels was really rich and we could mine it, so it's been really fun to develop the television show, especially because it takes place in an LA Continental, so it is a completely different vibe and mood from the movies.
Continental Hotel can be much bigger than your imagination.
Winston is evolving and developing. He lets us know the consequences and the rules and what rules need to be obeyed, and also kind of talks about the consequences of breaking the rules. And in Parabellum, the lens is turning on him about these rules in the world of the Continental and what he did and didn't do and the consequences of that.
So, there is an adjudicator here to see.
We wanted to show how does the high table hit the ground? Where do they move? How do they flex their power? And this idea of a character called the adjudicator came up. Because we were dealing with rules and fealty, we thought fealty could be connected to the high table. And Continental has the rules, and that the high table could have rules, but then fealty. And the adjudicator was a character that could address breaking the rules. And then we had this idea that we know John Wick has broken the rules, but then didn't Winston break some rules? Did the Bowery King break some rules? They were doing things that weren't in the interests of the high table.
They are intimidating. They are not easily thrown by other people, and they know the power that they carry. They know how to carry it into a room.
They're powerful. As powerful as my character, as powerful as John Wick's character in their own way, and expresses the wishes of the high table.
Part of the reason the adjudicator is so fun is that you see these characters like Winston, like John Wick, even Sharon, who you think, oh, nobody could mess with them. And then here comes this character, and they're all a little bit like, whoa, I don't know how to deal with this.
Someone is judge, jury, and executioner. And they're not a killer, but it's very matter of fact.
I think we like addressing both our subtleties and our flaws all out in public, I guess, when John Wick goes. Obviously, it's wacky. He kills hundreds of people over a puppy. We like to address that. We thought, wouldn't it be fun if we actually had a character that called out all our bullshit? Judge how wacky our world is. We're like, it's pretty genius. Let's keep with that.
Mr. Wick broke the rules. I trust you understand the repercussions if he survives.
We had the opportunity to tell chapter 3, and we were going to go into the world of the high table, and John is on the run. And the question was, well, how can he survive? And then we were thinking about the high table. We came up with this idea of the elder, someone who sits above the high table, and that John has to find the elder, that is the person that could give John absolution. So John goes to the ends of the earth to find this mythical character.
We thought it would be great if our world had not only the financial, economical kill or be killed side, but also the spiritual and the ethical side that guides the rules and keeps the order between the two worlds. In order to do that, we had a bit of the ethereal guide.
He's gonna allow him to be John Wick again. It's because of my understanding of his soul, my understanding of his pain, demons, who makes me give him another chance. I can give you one last chance to earn a life. However, it might not be the life that you wish.
In our world, there's a big portion of the population that are hired assassins.
But I think that was kind of like the point of this movie, was this world of assassins are everywhere, and John Wick has really nowhere to hide.
So they're after him for the money. There's also the law enforcement of our criminal world. They're after him for committing the crimes he did. There's also some freelance individuals that are outside of both that would also like to take revenge on John for his past deeds.
You find this man who's grieving the loss of his wife. She, through her wisdom, passes along this gift of a dog, Daisy, a kind of connection to kind of communicate and transmit her love, her thoughtfulness for him, and in a way, knowing what he needs to be in the world. Once that's taken away, we're introduced to this character, John Wick, this legend who had retired for 5 years, who's now back. And so this demarcation of John and his retired life and his life with his wife and the love, and then this assassin, this person who is a killer in this world, is unleashed. And so I think through the stories, we're seeing this battle between John and John Wick.
John is the person he wants to be. John Wick is the person he naturally is. John's concerned with that. The contract, people trying to kill him, that's not his primary concern, I don't think. I think it's looking for a type of absolution that allows him to become the person he wants to be in order to remember his wife, and if he's going to die, he'd rather die as the nice guy that his wife would want him to be. And that's his main journey. And somewhere along all that, he decides which is more important to him.
Who do you wish to die as? The Baba Yaga, or as a man who loved and was loved by his wife? Who do you wish to die as, Jonathan?
It's about John's journey and quest to live, to remember his wife, Helen.
The high table wants your life. Tell me, Jantan, what do you really want?
Passage. We had a concept for the high table and a character named the Elder that John would be seeking in order to try and find a resolution to ask of the table a way to live.
I seek a meeting with the one who sits above the table.
John goes to the ends of the earth to find this mythical character.
One of the reasons why we loved Rome and John Wick 2 is, putting aside that it's cinematic, but it's such an old city. And to get a sense that when you go back there, that this world, the world of the Continental, the world of John Wick, the world of these assassins, have been around for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. So we asked ourselves going into John Wick 3, what's even older than Rome?
You know, one of the cradles of civilization is the Middle East, so we kind of went back, and our head of the high table, or someone even above our high table, would be from the Arabic culture.
It's just kind of teasing this idea of this really ancient world and how it has all led to John being in this position of having to go back into that world.
Chad started to go on a tour. We were looking for locations.
You know, we were looking at Cairo, we were looking at Istanbul, parts of Jordan, but Morocco had kind of everything we needed. It had the sand dunes was the main location we needed to try to find.
Keanu and I were thinking about a visual and cultural aspect that we thought was more ancient, more fraught with history, and a little bit more gravitas than we had done previously on John Wick 2 in Rome.
You're gonna die, John. Whether out here on this desert or somewhere else down the road. But you are gonna die.
The town of Essaouira, which is on the coast a couple hundred miles south of Casablanca, had the right feeling as far as a coastal city, and that kind of played as the city where Sofia is, but we felt that, you know, it also had a better aesthetic.
There was a sense of history and the kind of the sense of ancient historical vibe that we were trying to get, just going even deeper into the Wick history.
This is your blood, your bond.
But I mean, I felt like I knew this place. You know, we'd be walking through the square, and I'd turn a corner, and I felt like I knew what was going to be around the corner. I don't know how I knew that, but I knew that. There's a sense of being home.
Enough! My character, in fact, is the servant of Halle Berry's character. Mr. Jonathan, would you be so kind as to come with me? Basically, he's the one who picked up John Wick in Casablanca and welcomed him in Morocco. I am the guy who's saying in the movie, "Welcome to Casablanca, Mr. Wick." So this is pretty cool.
Thanks.
Welcome to the Moroccan Continental.
One of the biggest influencing was Casablanca. And we always thought it was a great little ode to send John Wick to Casablanca. That's where we got the idea of all the assassins go to one place.
Yes, the Continental changes, you know, as to where you go. And this Continental is really reflective of the country.
Miss Laswell, she waits for no man.
Casablanca has a little different aesthetic. It's a more cosmopolitan city. It has a lot of French colonial influences in it, especially in the architecture. And we kind of wanted to keep a little bit more to the Moorish archways and a little more of a deeper history.
Best of luck, Mr. Jonathan.
Sophia, always so nice to see you.
One of the currencies, or like a business card or a currency piece, are gold coins. And we thought it'd be fun in Morocco because of the African continent and a big portion of the world's gold comes from there. We thought, well, we'll put our foundry, or a place where they actually stamp and mint the gold coins used for our world.
So we see where a lot of these things like the markers and the gold coins kind of first come from.
The idea of minting and having your own currency within our world was a big part of how we got the foundry.
You see that coin? The first coin ever minted in this facility. Next to it, the first mark. Not easy to track down, believe me.
Signor Barada, well, I think he was kind of almost outcast here, thrown out here by his papa. I think he was probably causing a bit of trouble back home in Italy. So he was sent out here to look after the foundry, which is where they make the coins and the markers.
When we went to see Barada, his office was open air. The set design was really innovative and quite beautiful, and they used every bit of what was there, and it felt real for that space.
Barada's lair is something that is a historical landmark in Essaouira, which we turned into an office space at the top of a mountain, which is really interesting and cool.
Yeah, well, I suppose a conventional office might have been a bit boring, whereas that set, it just isn't. It's like, wow, who is Barada? What kind of a guy is he? You know, how much power does he have?
The elder is not a man you find. He can only choose to find you.
I had this vision of John Wick walking in a desert. I don't know where it came from, but I loved it. You know, John Wick in his suit, walking in a desert.
Better get going.
This was a pretty memorable scene. Jonah walking across the Sahara Desert.
I'd never been to the Sahara, but to go there, what a magical, amazing, profound place.
It's always when you're shooting outdoors, you cannot control the sun. So you can just shoot in the morning and the evening. So try to do the wide shots in the morning and go in for close-up and then shoot wide shots again in the evenings. But it's just so beautiful, you know. It's just every time you're coming to the desert, it's just like, wow. This is just so amazing.
Don't worry, your weapon is still there. Please drink.
In all big action movies, you always have the bad guy, the head guy that has the big plan to take over the world.
My son, how have you come to be so lost?
In the John Wick universe, no one's trying to take over the world. The world is. They exist. And we thought it would be great if our world had not only the financial, economical, kill or be killed side, but also the spiritual and the ethical side that guides the rules and keeps the order between the two worlds.
Not lost. Looking for you.
I guess you could call him the bit of the ethereal guide, which in our case is the elder who sits above all.
So tell me, Jonathan, why do you wish to live? My wife, Helen.
This character called the Elder, everyone I think expected a much older actor to play the role. And we thought it would be really fun and interesting to play against type and just have someone that was younger.
So you seek to live for the memory of love? At least a chance to earn it.
Saeed Takmoui
agreed to do the film, who, I mean, the guy's just full of life and someone who could be charming, charismatic, and dangerous.
The cost of your life will be the death of others. The first of which will be the man they call Winston. Elder is one of those main guys of that organization, and it's very intriguing because he's young, but he's in charge. John Wick has to come to him and has to talk to him and has to listen to him.
I will serve. I will be of service.
So when Elder comes in, you better sit down and listen to what he has to say, because he doesn't play around.
We got the chance to work together and do our scenes. And it was on. It's good.
And Mr. Wick, marhaba.
Okay. It's our last night in the northern tip of the Sahara Desert. We just finished the Elder scene with Keanu. We spent the last couple weeks prepping this. We had 30 camels, 40 tribesmen, our lead cast, and a crew of 200. We managed to get the scene despite 2 days of sandstorms, a lot of camels, and a lot of water.
And the desert loves him.
We weren't sure for the first 2 sandstorms if the desert loved us.
But
Mustafa says the desert loves us.
From a logistical level, it's been really challenging, but it was a blend of Marrakesh and Essaouira and the Sahara, which always is difficult. We had windstorms, we had unseasonable rain. We were told to shoot, go to North Africa. It never rains. You'll have perfect weather in October. And it rained almost every day. We had no rain cover. So we were constantly trying to pivot.
As we discovered, there's a major rainy season in Morocco, which we did not know. That was news to us. Morocco was a rolling surprise. That we're glad we went there, and it looks great, but there were a lot of things that we did not anticipate.
Shooting Morocco is really beautiful, super friendly people and some amazing locations.
I've had the most amazing time shooting some scenes that I think will redefine, who I am as an artist, and I'm really happy to be here.
It had its challenges, and the crew and everybody there was fantastic. For me to be in a John Wick suit, playing John Wick, walking in those sand dunes was a moment of my life. Making movies is rich in traditions. It's like what has come before with the painters, what has come before, what styles have come before, what techniques have come before.
In this third one, we have a CGI sequence. It's been challenging because it's so outside of what we normally do in the Wick world. It's just been a different experience.
We set such higher standards on the first 2 movies that you always have to kind of one-up it. We tried to put things on the edge of what's real and still make it cinematic.
There are a lot of influences in the film, and one of the things that I saw a picture called Villainous, and it turned out that Chad had seen it.
Villainous was a great film, great action movie, great Asian cinema, and they had a great motorcycle sequence in it. And it's been the first film in a while where me and my stunt team were impressed, like, oh, that was a really cool idea. We're like, well, we don't want to copy it, we don't want to do this. We're like, you know what? Not only are we going to copy it, we're going to try and figure it out.
They came together and they were like,
On the first John Wick, we had an extremely limited budget. Most of what we did, practical and long takes, is because we simply couldn't afford a second camera. And at the time, they came from a very limited budget too, and they did something that was fresh, it was new. It was a new way to kind of shoot this bike chase. The first couple times we watched it, me and my stunt team, my VFX team, for the life of us, we couldn't figure out exactly how they did it. So in this obsessive way, we're like, let's just try to figure it out, just for our own sake. And we started trying to figure it out, and we're like, oh, this is what they did. This is really interesting. It was like a puzzle we tried to piece together. It wasn't as simple as we thought it was. It was a lot of work, and it was a lot of creative skill. This is tipping our hat to them. It's like, good job. Good fucking job.
It's our first full CGI action sequence.
This is probably one of the most complicated visual effects sequences I've been involved in, purely from a choreography standpoint.
It's so different than what we normally do.
There's more of a partnership with stunts and visual effects than people know. That way you can kind of do more low-budget stuff with using effects. I don't have to use practical effects. So I think that's an important partnership in terms of action filmmaking now. And you can kind of get these kind of amazing shots you couldn't do practically.
They designed this motorcycle sequence that involved live action and in the moment, and then working in a computer-generated space. When you do that to try and make it look real, that's the challenge. Like, how do you get the vicissitude?
We shot the motorcycle sequence on the Verrazano Bridge. It's this big suspension bridge, and it's multi-levels, and it was really great because you could see New York in the background, and it really made for a great, spectacular setting. Everything we did had to have a visceral reaction to the audience.
When we saw that, I thought it was the concept was awesome. Like, one thing was kind of stationary and the other two were moving, or two things were stationary and only one thing was moving. So we're like, well, we can one-up that. We can make everything moving in the frame, so there's not really a cheat.
Tonight's craziness is the second half of the motorcycle shinobi fight. This has been something we've been working on for a couple months to try and get this thing right.
The stunt team worked out the choreography first. That was super important. You have to get the fight beats working, and then everything else will come after that. Then you start working on cameras. And then, of course, you have to adjust the fight because you want to make sure the camera looks at the right thing at the right time. We did yet another test of that where we shot it on green screen. And we realized that what the stunt team had been working on actually wasn't 100% the right size by about a couple of feet per lane.
Getting over there, Juice.
Well, a couple of feet per lane is a big deal. We redid the whole thing. So that was 2 days of shooting that we spent doing just the layout to make sure we could do it. And from that, we discovered there were certain things that were working really well, certain things that actually didn't work quite well. But the good thing is it taught us timing, and it taught us what the choreography really, truly needed to be. And so the stunt team did an incredible job of making sure that all that stuff really, really worked. Once we had that, then we were ready to actually do the action.
Came up with this concept of having motorcycles that were on these pivots because they wanted to have mobility, and then they wanted to move them in this green room. So then there were people pushing them in green suits.
Yeah, we just wanted to put some dudes in green suits, really. It was pretty great. I just wanted to embarrass the stunt team.
This suit sucks. So then it became this dance.
It's like dance choreography. There's movements. There's a language of movement that we have to, you have to play to.
The choreography is so interlaced between the guys pushing the bikes, the actual fight choreography, and the camera move.
You're on a motorcycle, you're wind machines, but that could move. You know? We could literally have all of the behaviors, leaning and hitting each other, and choreography, doing the kind of reality, virtual reality, dream action sequence. So it's motorcycles with swords.
Chad Stahelski is extremely relentless, but that's how you get what you want in this business, right? That's how you get John Wick Part 1 done. That's how you get Part 2 done. And Part 3, to go bigger and crazier, you have to be relentless. You have to have the vision, and he absolutely does. This film is filled with logistical issues because of all the complicated work that goes into it, but ultimately he does have a vision for what he wants. And, he works with everybody to make sure that that vision is achievable.
I love working with Chad, and to be able to keep telling these stories is great. And for me to have the opportunity to continue to tell the story with Chad's vision and everyone involved is really exciting and thrilling, and hopefully people will enjoy it.
I'd like to see the manager.